Okay, last Monday, okay, again, welcome back to our class for today. Okay, last Monday we had our first introduction on the subject, okay, whereby I discussed uh, the coursework, the allocation for the coursework, okay, 3 tests and 2 group assignments. So we're gonna stick with this arrangement, and the group assignment, everything, okay, I will assign the groups later when we are already approaching towards the end of topic 8 and 9, and then I will come up with the groups. Okay, so and also the date for each of the tests, okay, I will inform uh, around 1 week before the test. Okay, but I already mentioned last time. Each test will be a week after the completion of the final topic. So once we finish topic 3, then 1 week after that, you're going to have the first test. Okay, 1 week after we finish topic 5, and 1 week after we finish topic 7. Okay, so this topic is based on your syllabus. So there are 10 topics altogether. So now we are finishing topic number 1 today. So we started why we study statistics, what is meant by statistics. Okay, and then we're gonna finish the remaining the remaining items for topic number 1. Okay, so next week we're gonna start very briefly on chapter 2. Okay, I don't plan to spend too much time on chapter 2 because it is quite short and simple to topic. Okay, so I assume that you have your PowerPoint slides already downloaded in your desktop. Okay, and I also noticed that okay, you have access to the ebook, the one that we the main textbook that we are using. Okay, so you're gonna hold on to that. Okay, so this book will be used very extensively, especially from topic number 3 onwards. Okay, starting from describing data topic. Okay, whereby we're gonna start using your scientific calculator, okay, to calculate mean, standard deviation, and whatnot. Okay, so this is where the exercises from the book. Okay, so you will notice that at the end of the textbook, you have solutions, okay, for odd number questions, okay, beside the tables, binomial tables, normal Poisson table that you're going to refer from time to time when we cover those topics, okay. But mainly for the questions with answers are only odd number questions. So we're going to discuss both, okay, focusing on the odd questions, and then we for exercises. So we're gonna do both, okay, the even number questions. To the even number questions, we're gonna perform the questions and also the solution during class. So I think um, my plan is that, okay, I may come up with your group names, okay, by next week maybe, or following week before we start chapter number 3. Okay, and in order to make sure that our class remain active, okay, I mean you guys participate during lectures, okay, not just listening to the lectures, and whenever we have questions, okay, during classes, okay, to make sure that you are actually working closely together with me during the class, is that, okay, I may call any of the group member at random. Okay, so I will not call the same person twice. So for example, in group 1, you have 4 to 5 members. Okay, so if I call person A, okay, this week, for example, so the following week, okay, or any other classes, so it's like everyone must be, participating actively during class. So I may need you to share your screen, okay, to show your solutions that you write down on that piece of paper. Okay, so you can just snap the photo and share, or the worst case scenario, you can just snap your solution and share on our group WhatsApp. Okay, so I just want to know that you are also participating in the class, okay? Or maybe you can just explain the answers, how you get the answers on using your microphone, okay? So that will be how I plan to conduct the whole the rest of our lecture for this semester. Okay, so teaching mathematics or statistics class using WebEx is not convenient. I think because usually this is done, it's easier to conduct face to face, and whereby usually I will call students to the front and explain your solutions. Okay, so I already explained that last Monday, so I don't intend to explain that again. So by the time we start on chapter 3, okay, where you start to do the actual calculations. Chapter 1 and 2, one we're going to finish today, just on the background of statistics. So in chapter 2, if you look at the, the slides, okay, you know that chapter 2 mostly about using softwares like Microsoft Excel, okay, to present your data in a nice manner, okay, pie chart, histogram, bar chart, whatnot, okay. So that chapter again, okay, there is no specific calculations that need to be done, okay, except for starting on chapter 3, okay, which things, okay, so make sure that you have your apa tu, your calculator, okay, your Casio calculator with you. So if you look at the if you look at your OL, okay, on so this is the recorded video last week, okay, sorry, last Monday, okay, and then okay, if you look at chapter 3, okay, I put this video already, the link to YouTube, okay, on your topic 3, okay, how to calculate mean and variance using calculator. So you can watch. Of course, it's still quite early to do this, okay, but okay, might as well, if you have nothing to do or if you have free time, okay, check those 2 videos on your OL, okay, where is it? Okay, and then so those 2 videos I actually can teach you how to apply or using your I assume most of you are using the Casio scientific calculator, okay. So watch these 2 videos, okay, and you can even replicate the what the video the person who is doing the video step by step, okay, make sure that you get the same thing. So because in your subject, okay, in order to perform those exercises, okay, so you need to solve them using your calculator, okay. So that is one thing. So okay, so let's carry on with our class for today. Okay, so last Monday we discussed why we study statistics, okay, basically, and then what is meant by statistics. It's a science, okay, the word science, because you need to go through the process, okay, of collecting and until you can actually present your your findings, okay. So being an economic student, okay, so collecting data and presenting them, and then especially how to interpret, okay, because one of the subject that is compulsory for you to take is basic econometrics. So that you might take in semester 3, okay. So one of the requirement in the syllabus, okay, is the ability to interpret the regression output, okay. So you have your data, you analyze, okay, and then you need to know how to interpret the coefficients value, okay. If what happen if there is a 1% increase in inflation, what is that impact on GDP, for example? So being able to interpret is part of the skill of being an economic student. Okay, so of course in this subject we are not going to do any regression analysis. Okay, but the thing that you need to know is if you look at the syllabus is on the hypothesis testing based on the syllabus, especially on the later topics, chapter 8, 9, and 10. 8, 9, and 10. So this is the part where you are required to know how to interpret the findings, okay, based on the questions given. Okay, so that's why we decide that your assignments should be based on topic 8, 9, and 10. Okay, because I want to know how you actually explain and understand based on this, the steps required. Okay, so that is what we discussed last time around. Okay, and then we have the two types of statistics. Okay, so we have two groups or two types of statistics. One is descriptive, and the other one is inferential. So descriptive is the easier one. Usually, if you look at the example given here, mostly using the word descript is from the word describe. So whatever data that you have, you are just going to present the data and interpret them in the most informative way. Okay. So there are many ways nowadays, not just using the simple PowerPoint or pie chart, bar chart. Okay. If you are following, if you notice that there are many tools, especially in Microsoft. Okay, Microsoft Power BI, for example, or Tableau, Tableu. Okay, you can Google them and see. So these are new ways to actually present your data. You can share your findings, okay, especially now when we are using remote learning or online learning. Okay, sharing your findings online is one of the new things now, okay, which is part of the descriptive statistics. So basically, you are just going to use sentences, and the most one of the most informative one is using graphical approach. Okay, pie chart, bar chart. Okay, any graphical, nice graphical figures that will be able to convey. Okay, whatever message or whatever findings that you have in the easiest way possible. Okay, so if you want to know, for example, now during COVID-19 period, okay, the government want to show the the increase or the decrease in the number of cases, or from the info diagram, where are the new cases from which state. Okay, negeri today's case, how many in Kedah, how many in KL, how many in Selangor, how many in Penang. So those are basically using descriptive statistics. You look at the map of Malaysia, and they show you the cases, okay, based on the map alone. So you can and maybe if you zoom further, they also give you the cases based on district, okay, daerah, not just based on state alone. So that is descriptive statistics. Okay, you describe, okay, in the most informative way. So this descriptive statistics, we will look at this part in chapter 2. Okay, and then another type of statistics which involve calculations, regressions, modeling, okay, econometrics. Okay, so those are what we call inferential statistics. Okay, and there are a number of softwares, okay, like eViews, Stata, okay, SPSS, SAS, SAS, LIMDEP. Okay, you can. I think there are more than 10 softwares that will allow you to use data. Okay, import your data, whether it is data that you take from secondary sources, for example, from Bank Negara Malaysia, Central Bank, from World Bank, okay, or from Department of Statistics. Okay, data that you already gathered that you can take directly from other people's report. Okay, so that's what we call secondary data. Or it is based on your own survey, meaning you do your own survey, you have a questionnaire. Okay, nowadays people can just use online tools like Google Form. Okay, you create questions, or you can use websites such as SurveyMonkey, okay, surveymonkey.com, or the free one, okay, Google Form. Okay, you can create questions and survey, and from those survey, okay, you can try to analyze. Okay, for example, if you want to do a simple survey on the how do students cope, okay, during using this online WebEx learning tool. Okay, whether it is you can follow is easier, or whether it is too difficult, what are your concerns. So whatever question that you put in the Google form, okay, once people okay, choose the answers for them, then you can analyze them. So inferential statistics is you make decision, okay, you estimate, okay, you make prediction or generalization about a population based on a sample. So these two words here, population versus sample. Okay, so the word population and sample is a very important concept in statistics. So the word inferential statistics, okay, whenever you make a survey or whenever you make a study, okay, whether about the whole economy of Malaysia, for example, or for example, you want to do a study on UUM, the whole of UUM students. So whatever data that you're going to collect, okay, for example, if you're doing a study about UUM students, so UUM students becomes the population. Okay, UUM students become the population. So of course, in the real world, okay, whenever you do a research, you are not expected to get data from the whole of the population. Meaning, if there are 20,000 UUM students, okay, and if you want to do a research on UUM students, you are not expected to get the information from every one of the UUM students, but you're gonna base on sample, meaning you might ask questions from 200 or to 300 students from UUM, and the findings that you get from that sample of 300 students of UUM is supposed to represent the whole population. Okay, so that is what the word generalization about population. So you take a sample, okay, the findings from that sample will be able to represent the population of UUM. Okay, so for example, if you ask a question, what is your popular TV show? Okay, and then maybe the TV network will collect sample, okay, from let's say 1,000 viewers, okay, and then there are list of TV programs. So from that 1,000 should be able to represent the whole country, for example. So that is what inferential statistics is. Okay, it is based on sample data, which the information that you get from the sample, okay, which is just a part or a small portion of the sample of the population, and that findings is supposed to represent the whole population. Okay, so that is the idea of okay, the idea of or the concept behind inferential statistics. Okay, so so this is a very important concept that you need to understand early, okay, before we proceed further into the syllabus. Okay, so a population may consist individuals or objects. So if you're talking about people, okay, so usually we're gonna interview people. Objects means it can be I mean, of course, if you base on object, it's not a living thing, okay? But usually, if you are objects mean, for example, data, okay, statistics. So it can also be objects. So not necessarily your data must be of person, okay? But if your data comes from statistics of, for example, numbers, the amount of the value of, for example, the score of students. So let's say there are 5 groups of statistics students this semester, okay? My group and the other 4 lecturers teaching this semester. So let's say at the end of the semester, we want to know how does the students from this semester perform. So let's say from five groups, let's say we take a sample of 100 marks, okay, from group 10 students from my group, okay, and then maybe another some students from other groups. So so we're gonna base on the marks that you obtain towards the end. So that is also what we call objects lah, okay. Not necessarily that you need to go and interview the person. So population versus sample. So this is again based on okay, continuation from this inferential statistics concept. Okay, population is the whole or the entire set of individual or object of interest. Okay, so if you recall the example just now, if you want to do a study on UUM students, so all of UUM students, okay, let's say there are more than 20,000 students that represent from all courses, all schools, in all colleges, College of Business, College of Arts, College of Law. Okay, so all of those students from all of the departments and schools will make up the population. Okay, so but if you want, let's say to do a sample of some about UM students, whether it comes from College of Business, okay, College of Arts or Law, okay. So you take some of the students from each of the colleges, okay, and that will become the sample, okay. So basically, a sample is a portion or a part of the population of interest. Okay, so this is very important concept, okay, population versus sample, because at the end of the day, okay, all of the remaining, especially when you are looking at chapter 7, 8, 9, and 10, okay, so these are all based on, if you look at um, the contents, okay, you can so you have all the slides already, and even you got the ebooks or the ebook already, the PDF file. Okay, so you can go through, just browse through the slides, and you will notice that, okay, the last 4 chapters here, okay, are dealing with the concept of population and also sample. So they are, if you are analyzing data from population, okay, the formula used, the term used, okay, the symbol that you're gonna represent will be different compared to if your study is based on sample. Okay, so the assumptions, the formula, the symbol, because in statistics, okay, the notation or the symbol that you use will determine whether your findings is based on, your analysis is based on sample or it is based on population. Okay. Of course, in the real world, uh, usually whenever you want to do a research, it is based on sample. But if your population is small, for example, just my class, okay, 50 students of basic statistics, okay. So if my population is just my class, then I can afford to ask every one of you, okay. Meaning, it will not take me a lot of time to get information from 50 students. But if the population is 20,000 students, then it will take a lot of time and also money, okay, the cost to actually do a research that you need to cover the whole population. So it is not logical to rely or to ask questions or to get information from the whole population. So in most cases, people will rely on, or researchers will rely on sample. Take some from the population, okay, and you analyze your data based on the population, based on the sample data, and then you make the summary, okay, and then you are trying the findings that you get from the sample, you will generalize, meaning you're gonna use your information from the sample to say that, okay, this is what the population about. Okay, so for example, if you are going to ask about the 20,000 students to study about the whole of UM students, so the information that you collect, let's say from 300 students, okay, from all courses, from all colleges, so then you can say that when you do your findings, you say that UUM students, okay, you're not going to refer to the 300 people. You will say that in general, UUM students prefer to work from, I mean, to use WebEx, okay, for example. So the information that you get from the 300 will be used to generalize about the whole population. So that is about population versus sample. Okay, so why take sample instead of studying every member of the population? So this is what I mentioned just now. Okay, if your population is very big, okay, so it is time consuming, a lot of cost involved, because usually people will, organization or the institution will hire enumerators, okay, pembanci, okay, to do the data collection. So if your sample is a lot, I mean, if you're going to ask everyone from the population, so it will take a lot of time, a lot of money, okay, to hire people to do those things. Okay, so it is And then sometimes it is not possible, even though you have the money, okay, you have the resources to do, but in reality, it is not possible to go and ask every person in the population. Sometimes it is due to physical or geographical limitation. For example, if those people are living in areas that is, for example, you need to have special permission, okay, or it is difficult to access because of lack of transportation and whatnot, okay. So, or maybe you are not able to communicate. There are maybe some laws, undang-undang that you need to follow. So those are the things that whenever you do research, okay, for example, last semester, okay, I have 5 students from economics, okay, that is doing the research paper, kertas ilmiah thesis, okay. So you're gonna do that in your semester 7. So it's compulsory part of your requirement, okay, to graduate, okay. So all of the students, I assign them to do a study on the impact of COVID-19, okay, on the small scale traders, okay, peniaga-peniaga kecil, okay, whether they are the pasar malam, the hawkers, okay, the pasar malam traders, okay, or the those who are selling foods on I mean in gerai, okay, food stalls. So based on the findings, okay, let's say from 30 hawkers, okay, 30 food sellers, they will make an generalization, okay, about the people who are doing that kind of business in their kampung or in their district. So that is the project from last semester, okay. So of course it is impossible to go and ask every food sellers, every hawkers, or every night market or pasar malam traders. So the student only select a few of them, okay, due to the time constraint and the limitation because of the PKP. You cannot simply go around, okay, crossing district, for example. So those are the things that you will have, that you need to consider whenever you do research, okay. Um, so I already explained this one, okay. And then once you understand the concept of sample versus population, so okay, usually people or researchers will resort to using sample instead of population. So that is the norm, okay, the normal thing in doing research. Okay, and then we proceed to, so once you decide, okay, what type of research, okay, what type of topic, what is your issue that you want to study. So you need to know what type of variables, okay. Variables mean the kind of data that you are going to collect, okay. So generally it can be categorized into two, qualitative or quantitative. Okay, qualitative means values or data that is non-numeric, meaning it does not involve numbers, okay, like decimal, that RM, ringgit, dollar, okay. So for example, gender, okay, whether you are male or female, okay, religious affiliation, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindus, okay, the type of automobile, whether you own Proton or from Produa, okay, or Honda, Toyota, and whatnot. So those are basically what is grouped under qualitative variable. Or in other words, it is, you cannot assign. I mean, those variable does not involve numbers. Okay, so you cannot say that male. You cannot put values. Okay, if your religion is, for example, Muslim, Islam, or China, or Hindu, or Buddha. So you can just say that, okay, I'm a Buddhist, okay, or I'm a Muslim, okay, I'm a Hindu, okay, full stop, okay. But and then secondly is quantitative. Okay, so the data is reported numerically, meaning by its own original nature, okay. So the data is already in terms of numbers, okay, balance in your account, minutes remaining in class, for example, the minute the class starts, okay, students will already check their clock, okay, your watch, okay, how many minutes remaining, okay. So the distance from nowadays, okay, with the use of GPS, okay, if you want to go from point A to point B, okay, you you check your location, so you know exactly how many kilometers, okay, from from the point of your departure to your arrival. I mean your final destination. So you know how many kilometers, and also what is the estimated number of the estimated time, okay, in hours, in minutes. So those data is already in numbers, okay. And in economy, okay, the data that we usually use, okay, are all mainly in numeric, meaning, for example, data on GDP, okay, inflation, unemployment, okay, even now with the COVID cases, okay, people report the number of COVID cases every day, the number of positive cases, recovery cases, okay, so those are all quantitative variable, okay. So, and then under quantitative, okay, it can be further classified into discrete or continuous, okay. So why is it important for you to know this? Okay, because whenever you want to do a study, okay, the nature of your data will determine the type of analysis that you will need to use. If your data consists of mainly discrete data or a mixture, okay, some of them are discrete, some of them are continuous. So you need to have a model, okay, or a technique, okay, in your analysis that can deal with this kind of data. Sometimes you need to do some changes or modification in your data so that when you input into the software, okay, I will share later towards the end of our class today, okay, a program, a software called SPSS. So I'm sure you heard of this software before, okay. Okay, so it's a software that is very common in social science, okay, that can deal with whenever you collect data from survey, for example, and so it is normal when you do a survey, you will get information that is classified under both discrete and continuous at the same time in one questionnaire. For example, if you ask, what is your age? So age must be in terms of numbers already, okay? But some of your data could be, for example, previously qualitative or quantitative. And then if you ask anything to do with numbers, so some numbers are only discrete. For example, how many children do you have? How many family members? Okay, so discrete means can only assume certain values. Or in other words, what we can say, it does not involve decimal places. Okay, the number of bedrooms, the number of families, household members in your house, how many members living in your house. Okay, you cannot say that I have 2.3 family members. Okay, something wrong. Okay, how many fingers? Okay, you have 5. Normal people have 5 fingers. Okay, so those are how many cars do you own? Okay, you cannot say I own 1.3 cars. You, of course, that one is your CC, the size of your engine. That one is different. But how many cars do you own? Just 1 car or 2 cars, and okay, or whatnot. Okay, so discrete, exact, and assume exact numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so for example, if you ask a person, what is your what is your age? Okay, it meaning usually people just say we just put, okay, 20 years old, 21, 23. Okay, so those value will be what we call discrete value. Okay, and your data can also assume can take decimal places, okay, or what we call under continuous variable. So if your data by nature, okay, will assume does not necessarily involve a discrete value. For example, what is your pointer, your CGPA? Okay, so this could be your second semester. So I'm sure if this is your second semester, you already have your pointer from last semester. So most probably your pointer will not be just one number. So it could be, your pointer could be 3.01, 3.3.33, 3.5, 3.6. Okay, so usually whenever it comes so pointer or your CGPA will come under continuous variable. Okay, so it is quite unusual if your CGPA come under discrete. Okay, because even if it is your pointer is 3.0, it is 3, but it will show in your transcript as 3.0. Okay, meaning that it is by default will be a continuous number. So anything that involves decimal places, okay, does not necessarily need to assume or must be exact number. Okay, so that one falls under continuous variable. Okay, so in short, okay, when you categorize, so when you want to do a study, okay, the information that you want to collect, okay, so if you rely on survey questions, for example, you're gonna do a survey, okay, ask your respondents, okay, the person that you're going to ask, going to distribute the questionnaire, whether you are doing it online via Google Form, okay, or you're gonna go and meet them face to face, okay, ask them questions. So the information that you collect, okay, could be combination of both, okay, qualitative and also quantitative. Okay, so the type of data will determine the type of analysis that you can do, okay, in your computer program, okay, in your analysis. Okay, so quantitative, you have discrete or continuous. So at this stage of your subject, okay, so it is important that you know the examples, okay, not necessarily need to memorize, because if you know the type of example, okay, so that's why in this subject, okay, that's in this in this topic 1, there's no calculation involved. So what is important, especially in your in your test number 1, where you're going to be tested on topic 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so topic 1 means you're going to be asked on, okay, whether that one falls under continuous data or discrete type of data. Okay, so the main thing is you need to know the examples given. So you can check on your textbook, okay, to see, to maybe to read further, but from the slides alone, you can get the general idea, okay, what kind of, what falls under qualitative and what falls under quantitative, okay. So once you understand the kind of data that you have, okay, for example, if you are dealing with discrete, and if let's say if your study involves mostly quantitative data, meaning in terms of numbers, okay, how much is your income, okay, how much is your daily expenditure, okay, so those are all dealing with numbers, okay, how many children, how many bedrooms, how many properties do you own, okay, so those are all dealing with numbers. So once you know, or maybe also you want to ask any something that also involve qualitative. For example, just now, are you the status of your, are you married or not? Okay, are you single or married? Okay, and then your religion, okay, the place of birth, whether you are born in, state of Kedah, the state of Penang, KL, Selangor, and whatnot. So those are all qualitative type of data. Okay, so once you are sure once you know already the type of information that you need to collect, okay, and then you need to know also the type of measurement, whether your data belongs in the nominal level, interval, ordinal, or ratio. Okay, so the word level of measurement. So why is it, okay, now so what does it mean by level of measurement? So again, okay, once you collect your data, okay, besides knowing whether your data falls under qualitative or quantitative, okay, so if your data, for example, and it falls under qualitative, okay, so what type of level is your data? Does your data falls under nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio? The same goes if your data is quantitative, does it fall under nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio? So this is the level of measurement, because you need this will determine the kind of analysis again. Okay, how do you actually analyze your data? If your data is in terms of nominal, okay, and then you want to interpret, you want to run a model, okay, because when it comes in terms of analysis, okay, earlier we discussed that there are two types of the this one, right? Two types of statistics: descriptive and inferential. Okay, descriptive means you are just going to use sentences, okay, explain, 20% increase, okay. Meaning there is no specific method, no advanced model that you're going to use, okay, just using simple sentence, or you can just use, graphical approach, okay, pie chart, histogram, line graph, just to show that it is increasing or decreasing, if you want to plot the number of cases of COVID in the last 1 year. Okay, so that is descriptive statistics. We are just going to show from the month of March 2020, okay, until the month of March 2021. Okay, so you're just going to plot the number of confirmed cases on monthly basis. So that will fall under descriptive, meaning you're not going to analyze, use the data in whatsoever way. Okay, so if that kind of analysis that you're going to do, so it's quite simple. But if you're going to use your data to do inferential statistics, meaning you're going to do some estimation, calculate the mean, standard deviation, do a regression, okay, econometric model, okay. So that requires you to understand further whether the type of data that you collect, okay, falls under which level of measurement. So if you look at this slide here, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can edit your slide on your own notes, okay. You can put here like number, this is, let me use the end note here, okay. So this will be number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So what does 1, 2, 3, 4 means? This is the lowest level of data in terms of when you have 4 levels, so you have the low level and also the highest level. So you have 4 levels of data. The lowest is the nominal level. Second level is ordinal. Third highest is interval. The highest type of measurement will fall under ratio. So when you arrange them, it's nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. So why is it important to know this? Because analysis that deals with ratio level is different than if your data is based on nominal level. You cannot use the same type of analysis if your data is level compared to if your data is in terms of nominal. Okay, there are different type of data. Okay, unless you do some adjustment, you do some changes to your data so that it belongs to the same category, then you can run them. So I mean, we can in econometrics, okay, there are models that can, when you want to choose what type of model, okay, what type of regression analysis that you want to use. So if you want to combine, if your data involve some data in nominal level, some of your data, your variables are ratio level, and your study involve the combination of both, for example. So the model that you're going to choose must be able to recognize or must be able to handle the combination of different type of data. You cannot simply throw in or keep in your data in that model, in that software, and expect the software to understand. Okay, so you need to know beforehand before you start doing the analysis. Okay, here, so the lowest level, the lowest category is nominal level. So data that is classified into categories cannot be arranged in a particular order. Okay, so please understand this concept clearly. Okay, you can put into categories, but you cannot arrange. Arrange means there is no high or low. There is no this is best, this is bad, this is good, this is not good. You can put in category. So the easiest example, if you look at the next slide, it will be, for example, the type of religion. Okay, so if you ask questions on your questionnaire, okay, what is your religion? Okay, are you a Muslim? Are you a Hindu? Are you a Buddhist? Okay, so you can put them in terms of category. Okay, religious religion. What is your religion? But you cannot arrange in the questionnaire so that, for example, you want that Islam to be ranked number 1 in your questionnaire. Then some other person will, if you are Muslim, then you say, oh, I want to put Islam as ranked number 1. If you are a Chinese, then if you ask the questionnaire, then you want to put the Buddha as the rank number 1. So it doesn't work that way, because that kind of question cannot be arranged in that order. The same goes with gender, male or female. So you cannot say that, oh, I want to put male as number one because male is superior than female. Then you're going to be called as sexist. Okay, so so those kind of questions in your questionnaire, you can categorize them, whether you're female or male, but you cannot say that male should be ranked number one, female should be ranked number two, or the other way around. Okay, so that is nominal type of data. You can group, but there is no particular order, okay, because it is orderless. Okay, meaning you cannot say that this group should be number one, this group should be number two. Okay, the same goes, for example, in our university, we have three main colleges. Okay, we belong in the College of Business, and then we have College of Arts, okay, and then we have College of Law, okay. So you can, if you ask your student, if you ask your colleagues, okay, your friends, what college do you belong to? So you cannot say, oh, you belong in College of Arts, okay, CAS, or meaning you are inferior, so COB is better. So it doesn't work that way. If you want to ask what college, then just pick 1, 2, or 3. CAS, COB, or Colgis. Okay, that's it. So that is what the kind of, I mean, if your data is just going to categorize whether you are based on religion, male or female, okay. So that will be under nominal data. Okay, but if your data can be arranged in some order, okay, meaning that you can categorize in terms of ranking. You can rank them, okay, but the values between ranking cannot be determined or meaningless. Okay, for example, this is very common in let's say if you buy some products online. Let's say you buy pizza from Domino's or Pizza Hut, okay, and then towards the end of the purchase, you are going you will have like a simple questionnaire. How do you rate our service? Best, medium, poor, for example. Okay, so you know that best is better than medium, okay, and poor is the worst, okay. But how much better best compared to medium? Okay, you cannot put a value. Best is more than 40%. Okay, if the ranking, if the questionnaire just asks you to tick, okay, there are three boxes. So the first box means best, okay, and then this one, let's say medium, this one is poor, meaning if you feel that the service provided by the delivery from Domino's is best, then you just tick best. If you feel that it is very is just medium, then you just tick medium. If it is not good at all, very slow service, then you tick poor. Okay, but can you say that best? How much is the difference between best and medium? You are not sure, but you know that if the service is best, you tick best. That's the same if you go to a hotel, then upon checkout, okay, if you get a questionnaire or a survey question, how do you rate our service? Okay, the room service, the quality of the hotel room and whatnot. Okay, so if you ask about just to tick whether it's good, okay, medium or poor, okay, but you know that best is better than medium, but how much is the difference? You cannot say, okay, because there is no value that you can determine. So this is what it falls under ordinal. You can rank them, okay, but you cannot put values in between of the groups. Okay, that's why it is called here cannot be determined or are meaningless. Okay, so between bad and good and medium, you cannot say for sure how much is the changes. I mean, how much is the difference in terms of good and medium. Okay, but you know that good is better than medium. So that is, if that is the kind of data, okay, when you ask questionnaire, you ask them to arrange in that manner, so that will fall under ordinal. Okay, but if the type of data that you collect, okay, also similar to ordinal, meaning you can rank them according to best, medium, poor, okay, but between the groups, you can say that there is a value. So I think the easiest one is your grading, okay, grading in your okay, in your marks. Okay, you have A plus, and then you have A, okay, and then you have A minus, Okay, and it goes further down. Okay, you have B plus, B minus, and whatnot. So you know that A plus is better than A. Okay, and A is better than A minus. How much is the difference between A plus and A? It differs by around 10 marks, because if you look at your, any subject that you take in UM, okay, A plus anywhere 90 and above. Okay, so if you get A, meaning that the difference between A and A plus is the range should be more than 10. Okay, meaning that 90 and above falls under A plus lah. If you get A 80 to 89, then you get A. So you know that A plus is better than A, but how much is the difference? You can look at your score. So the difference between the grade A and A plus, the one that the student recorded or got, will be the difference in terms of the grading. Okay, so meaning that you know the ranking, A is better than B, B better than C, and how much is the difference? You can know already, because there is marks or the range of the marks associated with each of the grade. The same goes with your size. I mean, your shoe size, the size of your trousers, your pants, your blouse. Okay. So let's say if you know that your clothes usually you wear is L size. Okay. So L meaning that there is some particular size, okay, in inches. Okay, whether it is your waist or okay, the length of your, I mean, whether it's based on height, okay, or waist size. So those, you can say that, okay, if you're wearing an L size shirt, so L is bigger than medium, okay, but how much different? Okay, then if you look at the sticker, or the label on the garments or the clothes that you are buying, then usually it will show. Maybe you can measure by how many inches or centimeter, okay, the increase in the size between M and L. So that will fall under interval. Okay, so interval means data that can be ranked, and the differences between the rank, there is specific values, meaning you know already. You can calculate, you can estimate the difference between the rank between the groups by how many marks, or how many points, how many whatever value that is associated with that data. Okay, so that will be interval. Okay, and the highest type of data is called ratio level. Okay, so okay, one thing about interval is there is no natural 0 point. Means that data that is associated with interval, it cannot start with 0. For example, what is your the distance from your house, okay, let's say, to the nearest grocery store? Okay, you cannot say 0 kilometer. Okay, it must start with something. Okay, because even if your house is next to the shop, okay, you cannot say the distance between my house and the shop is 0 kilometer, meaning your house becomes the shop lah. Okay, but if that is not the case, meaning it must start somewhere. I mean, you must have some values assigned. Okay, so the same thing as, for example, your shoe size. Okay, shoe size means you must start with something. Okay, even a newborn baby. Okay, even how small the baby is, it must start with some size. You cannot say the size of the shoe is 0. Okay, there is no 0 size shoe even for a baby lah. Okay, so that is, it must start. That there should be a starting point, and that point cannot be 0. Okay, so that is if that is the case, that belongs to interval. And finally, ratio level. It has all the properties of interval, but it has a meaningful 0 point, meaning it can start from 0. Okay, for example, temperatures. Okay, how now we are in the midst of very dry and hot level, hot temperature. Okay, and in some states, okay, now they are also having winter season, snowing. Okay, so the temperature can even go as positive, or even go negative. Negative means below freezing. Okay, so 0 in temperature, there is meaning in terms of 0. Okay, so if your data can have a meaningful 0 value, so 0 also is a meaningful data, then your data becomes so that category is, I mean, your data belongs to what we call ratio level. Okay. Any questions so far? Can you understand? Can you understand what is going on? Semua senyap je, ke tengah tidur apa? Okay. So if you look at the next slide, okay, whereby it shows you the so basically what I did just now is just focusing on this slide, and then the detailed one you can the example is given on the following slides. Okay, remember the sequence just now. Okay, nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. Okay, so nominal is the is the lowest one, ratio is the highest one. Okay, so if you want to put the acronym NOIR lah, okay, NOIR ke apa ke, okay. So nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. Okay, so the best, the summary will be presented in this slide lah, okay. Nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio, and the example given here. Okay, so the main thing is that you know what is the example of data associated with each type of level of measurement. Okay, remember this is not the type of data, this is the level of measurement. So how do you assign whether, so this data can be qualitative, it can also be quantitative. Okay, for example, if your data for example like religion, whether you are Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, so that becomes a qualitative data, meaning that your data is not in terms of numbers, so it is qualitative data. Okay, but then your data is qualitative and it falls under nominal measurement, because when you collect your data, okay, from the sample, let's say you have 300 people that you ask questions, so maybe 100 comes from Muslim, belong to Islam, and then another 100 from Chinese, another 100 from Buddhist, and 100 from Hindus. Okay, so your data is qualitative, but it falls also under nominal category. Okay, you can categorize, but there is no ranking. But if you can rank them, it falls under ordinal. Okay, so usually this is in your hotel service, food service delivery. Okay, your experience after watching a movie, poor, good, okay, best, and whatnot. Okay, interval you can rank, okay, but between the ranking there is value that you can calculate. Okay, your grading in your pointer, A, B, C. Okay, grade A, grade B in your marks in the exam, your dress size, okay. And then ratio, okay, meaningful, there is meaningful 0 point, okay. So number of patients seen, so meaning if the doctor say there is no one in the clinic today, so the patient could be 0. Okay, number of sales made, okay, sales made meaning, for example, if on a very bad day, okay, let's say you are selling something on the market, okay, and that particular day is raining heavily, people cannot go outside, or for example during the lockdown, okay, people cannot go out, so even though you open your shop, okay, but no one can go and buy the things that you sell. Okay, so your sales could also be 0. So as long as you understand this the types of data, okay, so that will fall under the so okay, the slide just now, okay, if you look at this, okay, spreadsheets, softwares, SPSS, eViews, data, okay. The one that I'm going to share briefly before we end our class for today is the assignment that I mentioned just now from last semester on the research paper, okay. So this, okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so this is a research paper that you one day, in semester 7, you need to come out. Okay, so this is one of the students, okay, Arina. So all of the students in my class last semester, they're all doing similar topic on COVID-19. Okay, but based on the area where the student lives. So this student, he lives in Kuantan, so it will be, so it was done based on that area lah. Okay, so you can see that there are some analysis based on descriptive, okay, showing graph, and there are also some analysis based on simple analysis. Okay, so okay, what I want to share just now is the this one, the SPSS. Oh, sorry, not this one. This one. Okay, so this software, of course, at this stage, you don't need this program yet in your computer. Okay, but this one. Okay, so when you key in your data from the survey question that you get, okay, a software like SPSS, which is very common and popular, okay, to deal with primary data, meaning data that is based on questionnaire. Okay, so you are going to be, you need to declare or you need to specify whether your data is nominal or interval or ordinal. Okay, let me show you the screen. Something not right here, which okay. So if you look at this screen, right? Okay. So if you look at this measure here, okay, you can see that when you want to key in your, for example, this is from the questionnaire, so you need to declare whether your data is, so in SPSS, there are only three groups: scale, ordinal, or nominal. So nominal is the lowest one just now. Ordinal is the second level. Scale is, in our case, is the, in our slide here, if you recall, okay, we have three types: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Okay, so the word scale actually referring to interval and ratio data. Okay, so in SPSS, whether your data is nominal, ordinal, or scale, you can see the words, the number scale here is, there is ruler here, meaning anything to do with numbers. Okay, so here, for example, the taraf perkahwinan, you can see from this one. Okay, so this one belongs to nominal. Okay, ethnic is nominal. Okay, umur, age, because it's in terms of numbers, the student should put under scale. Okay, the type of premise, whether it is food business, makanan, pakaian, and whatnot. When you put category, it should be under nominal and whatnot. Okay, so this can, so you need to declare in the software whether your data, the questionnaire that you collect and the data that you're gonna key in, does it belong into the nominal, ordinal, or scale. Okay, so that is the 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 software that students will use if you are dealing with survey questions. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Okay, I will again